Okay, this was bad. Hey guys, welcome back to the shop, or in this case, my wife's quilting room. If you remember, quite a few years ago, I built this huge quilting desk for her, and in all actuality, I totally goofed up this top, and I need to fix that. Let me pull you in closer here. Let me show you what the issue is, and then I'll go ahead and get this top off and show you how I'm going to fix it. Okay, so I hope all this shows up on camera, but as you can see, my gap along here opened up, and it gets worse on the inside. Now my wife has put some stuff in here trying to close that gap up a little bit, and even has some blue tape down there, and I believe there's even a screw in here. So what happened was when I built this, these boards are a little dissimilar in width. They're not that far off, but they are a little bit off, and I made everything tight. So these boards expanded and contracted at a different rate, and therefore literally just pulled itself apart. So if memory serves me correctly, and I'll know more when we get this open, there's dominoes in here. They were all on the tight setting, and this thing was completely glued up. So let me get this top off of here and get it into the shop, and we will get on with fixing it.
So the very first step, obviously, is to cut this mitered corner apart. I did that with the track saw, set up with the track saw guide, and trying to split the seam as close as I can. I really don't want to lose a lot of material here, because I didn't have a lot of overhangs on this desk. So trying to save as much material as I can. And with the miter joint opened up, I can go ahead and clean up each edge and verify what I thought. I did use the domino, and it was on the tight setting on both sides. So just getting these edges cleaned up. With the edges all cleaned up, I went ahead and set them back together. Now this joint still is not perfect, or at least it's not good enough for me. So I'm going to go back to the track saw here and cut a little bit off of each side at the same time, trying to make this joint as perfect as I can make it, all with the track saw, which actually does a really, really nice job. And here I'm marking for the new domino locations. I will run the tight setting on one side, and I will be running the medium setting on the other side, so that this material has room to expand and contract, which it didn't have before. And of course we have to have the obligatory video footage here of me shooting a couple of dominoes. These were 8x40s, and like I said, I ran the tight setting on this side, and I ran the medium setting on the other half. And this is just a quick little jig that I made to mark the locations for the 1 3/8 inch Forstner bit that I'll use to install the desktop fasteners. Now normally I would have added a depth stop or something to the Forstner bit, but I just had a few holes to do, so I just used the hardware itself to measure for when I was deep enough in this top. Next up was to route the grooves between the two holes to accept the hardware. Once again, I didn't set up a jig or anything along those lines. I just free-handed this operation, and it actually worked out quite well. I did have to do it in a few passes, since these need to be relatively deep. And from there, it was just a matter of installing the fasteners and cranking them down, making sure that they were tight, so I can flip this thing over and get to work on refinishing the top. Now I did spend a fair share of time resanding this top, getting it ready to refinish. I had a little cleanup here to do on the seam, but it really wasn't that bad. But I'm going to save you all of the sanding that I did and put this clip in high speed so you don't have to watch me sand. And at my wife's request here, I'm adding about a 1/4 inch round over to the top. One of her complaints with this desktop is that the edges were catching the material a little bit. So I wanted to soften those edges up for her to make life a little easier for her. And this was all followed up by a bit of hand sanding with 180, just to make sure that I didn't have any sharp edges at all left on this desktop. And of course, the last step is finish. I did opt to move the top back in and reinstall it on the desk just because of its size and its weight. And this meant that I didn't have to have any help around to apply the finish. The finish here is armor seal, and I will do several coats. But once again, I'm going to spare you watching me throw finish on this and go ahead and get this one sped up.
All right, guys, so there it is, and I'll give you some close-up views of how well this seam turned out. It really turned out great, and most importantly, my wife is happy with it. So I spent about a day doing this. It's got about 4 coats of armor seal on it, and then after that cured up a bit, I came back and wiped this down with a brown paper bag so that it was nice and smooth for her to work on. So I wasn't quite sure that this was going to be video worthy, if I could get a full video out of making this repair. But I think it's important to point out when I make mistakes and how I did the repair and why the mistake happened and what caused the issue. In this case, the splitting of this top, because I improperly put this mitered corner together. So it's all fixed now, and I shouldn't have any problems in the future. And if I do, just like this time, I'll point it out again and show you the fix again. So that's going to wrap it up for this one, guys. And until next time, take care.